I had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, he commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, you know. Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
Well, welcome everyone to UFO Undercover. Hope everyone's having a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are on our big, beautiful, blue, happy planet out there. Well, Terra, Sol, actually. You know, I say Sol, but it's actually Sol. It's, you know, well, you can call it Earth. We don't care what you call it. No, you can call it Earth. It's, I don't know. Earth just doesn't seem to work. I mean, here we are, 5,000 years, 6,000 years, 12,000 years, 16,000 years, whichever history line you want to take, it just doesn't seem to work. I mean, we still seem to be killing each other.
Yeah.
And for what? I mean, really, is it that much on the planet that you want to kill somebody over? I just kind of wonder where we're headed. Well, no, tonight we're gonna be talking about the ancient world and ufology as it pertains to the ancient world. You know, you always hear me. One of my friends called me out on this. What I want to talk about. So you always hear me talking about if you're going to get into ufology, you should always start in the ancient world, and the reason why. Well, the reason why is it's just an overabundance of evidence in the ancient world that suggests that we've been visited in several different ways too. Not just like, it's not just somebody saw it or there's artwork. There's just so much other stuff. There's models and replicas of planes. It's just, there are so many things, all those Nazca lines. I mean, the more you look into it, the deeper you get. But we're going to start with the old world. So we're going to start with the Samarians, the Mesopotamians, the Egyptians. But Jay and I talked about this last week. Also, the other old world, which was about 4,000 years ago, we're going to be talking about the Mesoamericans, the Toltecs, the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Incans. Really and truly, they probably were all one race. They were all probably descendants of the Toltecs, and it looks like the Toltecs were descendants of someone else who built a great pyramid around 4,500 years ago and said they got the information from people who came from the sky. But yet, No one knows who they are, where they went, how they built the pyramid, or anything else. At least with the Egyptians, we got a kind of idea where they came from, each other, and they're still there. So, question is it, do the good people get taken or the bad people get taken? I'm just, we hear about these races just disappearing off our planet, and some of them fairly advanced races just dissing off our planet. Sorry, my alarm's going off. I guess someone's visiting the studio. If it gets too bad, guys, I'll shut the door.
But they said that a lot about particularly the Mayan, Olmec, Toltec, all of the Central American native tribes. They say they simply vanished, that they don't find any mass graves or anything where these hundreds of thousands or millions of people have disappeared to. And basically what happened with the Mayans, the Toltecs, all of those, what do they call the pre-Bavarian? I don't remember what but in any event, those races
that loud, Heidi.
migrated north and south and spread out throughout North, South, Central America and became what are now the First Nation tribes, the Indian tribes. They just simply assimilated into the rest of the world.
So, before we go any further in this, wait, stop. Breaks. Before we go any further than this, we're going to take a little tiny second. Now, I mean a little segue. It's not get crazy tonight, but little segue. So, you're coming across the land bridge. Ooh, I'm coming across the land bridge. Ooh, I'm coming across the land bridge. Okay, get across the land bridge. Now, we're kind of in Canada at this point, bottom of Alaska, right there by Vancouver somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, wouldn't you have gone straight instead of going down the coastline? Now, I think some people would have went down the coastline, but I don't think they would have all went
down.
They did.
Now, I proved it in college, and
because I know I wouldn't have went down.
The project proved it, or it helped prove it with me. The ancient Jomon people, and it's pronounced Jomon, Jomon, just like the JoJomon channel we have here, kind of, is an ancient race of Japanese and Korean prehistoric peoples. They built dugout canoes. They took a log and put it on its side and used their tools to dig a hole, just like the native Indians make those kind of log canoes. And some had freight, some had people on it, and they did a caravan all the way, did the whole Ring of Fire, their genetics are spread all over the Pacific, including on Australia, but not as much as they are in North and South, Central and South America. Now, they traded goods, and they did this for thousands of years. The Jomon people started around 15,000 BCE and went until about 1400 CE. That's a huge.
That's long after people came here, though. That's like 40,000 years after we came here, maybe 50,000 years after we came here.
No.
We were here.
They started doing that circle in the 14,500 BC area.
No, that's what I'm saying, though. The first man on the continent that they think was well over 200,000 years ago.
Oh, what was
then,
it?
Then they think the ones that were the ones that they think that were hunting the samurai. I mean, not the samurai, poor samurai. I don't mean they were hunting samurai. Guys, I don't be hunting y'all. I'm talking about hunting the mammoths. I'm sorry, I got crazy on that last one. Heidi saying her new favorite song got me confused. But the mammoths are interesting because, I mean, we're probably the ones that hunted them out to, our ancestors are probably who hunted them to extinction, just like they almost did with the buffalo. It's so, but who were they? No one actually quite knows who they were. And then they found out, they think they found out that some people somehow or another got washed over to Greenland and then got washed over here. So it looks like there was actually penetration from both sides of the continent somewhere between 50 and 250,000 years ago. Now, if you go by what the guy with the skull,
yes, but
if you go with the guy in South America found, he got a skull that's 3.3 million years old. So that changes everything.
Yeah,
that puts him as old as Lucy.
Basically, what it means is that those creatures they may not have survived after the breakup of Pangea, but they may have been. I'm sure that there's going to be lots of creatures we find that have gone extinct. You won't find them on other continents because they broke apart, and I think that's kind of the case here. Is that those the initial deposit of life on the land once it broke up, it was spotty. I mean, there was only certain species on certain parts of the land. So if something went extinct, and then later on that part of land is now the Jomon people are coming into, or the Toltecs or Mayans come into, they wouldn't be associated with anything that's already extinct under the ground. And I think that's the case with this, is that they're mistaking migration for something that's extinct, that just migrated with the natural progression of the planet.
They think there's been life on this continent for quite a long time now.
Well, yeah,
And
no, that's what I'm saying.
It keeps getting further.
Yeah.
It keeps getting pushed further back, and then it keeps getting different sources. They keep arguing about where the sources was. So you're talking about the Jomon, and and that's one of the first things they said early on was the Islanders were coming here early on, which are the Jomon, and well, that's before they were called Islanders actually. But and then there's the other race though that they think came here, which was the Mariners, and they came over from Europe and South and Middle East. So, but nobody knows who they were. They do figure they were here somewhere 15, 20, 25,000 years ago during the Ice Age, no less. They crossed. But if you're crossing at the equator,
well, it might be easier
during the Ice Age, you're probably not even going to see any ice.
Well, yeah, but if they crossed during the Ice Age, they could easily walk across the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean, because it would be frozen.
No, the Pacific wasn't completely frozen. They were talking about
the
that.
Atlantic was.
Yeah, the Atlantic was. Atlantic. It's about half the size.
Yeah. Completely, you could probably walk along the shorelines and stay, pretty close to.
Oh, I imagine there's places you could easily cross. Yeah, that's what they were talking about. That's why they talked about the land bridge. They figured the glacier just pushed in over the land bridge and just all of that was just hunk of crap.
The problem with that is everyone thinks when we say land bridge, it's like you could just walk from Asia to America. No, you have to swim in places, and if you had a boat, it would be more economical.
Maybe not. It depends. I would think so. On that, I would think it would be more about when it was. So at the end of the Ice Age, I agree. That's how you would have had to cross. Yeah. But at the height of the Ice Age, that would have been one.
No, you just walk right across.
It would have been one big hunking because
it wouldn't have been a land bridge. That would be an ice bridge.
Yeah, that's what it would actually what it was. And the mammoths, all you had all those animals that crossed, but not all of them. There seems to have been animals already here. The more they dig in this, the more it looks like
when the land was all one piece. I believe that's when life spawned, and when it was all like whatever life forms were going to be on the planet were spawning in this Pangea.
Yeah, doing Pangea, yeah.
But once it broke up, then that screws the pooch for everybody. So not everything we're going to find is going to be on every continent, but there's going to be life from 500 million years ago, 200 million years ago. We're going to find this stuff eventually. It's in the earth. It's in the dirt.
So then that leads to another problem. So Pangea was here. I guess the aliens hadn't come when Pangea was here.
According to Sitchin, they would have been here at least throughout the forming of the planet. They probably would have seen the accretion disks create each of the 8 planets. And I say 8 planets because Venus wasn't one of them. They would have considered Pluto one at that point before it fully formed.
It's maybe not. They might not even know we existed. See, that's the problem with extraterrestrials. It's I was showing this to a friend the other day. He's going, "Oh well, we're in a spiral arm, lots of and I said, "We're not though." I said, "We're like the sunken ship outside the shipping lane that nobody ever goes by." I said, "That's where we are." I said, we're not just a little bit off. We're a good ways off the spiral arm. When you look at it, you actually see it. So when you see this, they show you the 3 spiral arms. Now they added one, and you'll see it. They'll make a dot. And if you're looking at it from just a random map, it looks kind of fairly close to the arm. Well, start zooming in.
Yeah,
you ain't nowhere near the damn thing. Yeah, you're hundreds of billions of miles away from that arm. So someone, even with scan, isn't going to see you. You would have been found accidentally, or maybe.
Which makes this the perfect strategic spot for anyone who wants to wage war in any of these spiral arms. Every one of the stars inside the spiral arms, where they call it like the local galaxy, like our local neighborhood, every star is only 1 to 2 light years away from the next. And most stars are binary or trinary, meaning there's 2 or 3 suns revolving around each other, and then there's X number of planets around each of those suns revolving around each other, and all of that's all combined into one huge solar system. So we're way out we're in the sticks, as most astronomers put it.
Yes, and that's what makes it so hard for us to get into deep space travel. If we were in the local galaxy, we could probably just kind of cruise along from one to the next, eventually find somebody with the technology we're looking for. But here, I mean, we are literally in the boondocks, man. That's where we are. I mean, that's where Earth is. Was
Yes,
it
Mitch,
done
we
intentionally?
have, or at least I have. She wants to know: you guys haven't heard about the life coming out of Australia? It's called the Out of Australia theory, and it's proposed by the Strongs, Evan and William, or is it Michael and William, the two Strong brothers, friends of mine who I've had several great arguments about the creation and things on our planet. It's an idea I fully support.
The ganja must be
100% on the mark. Those two gentlemen are excellent researchers. If you haven't read their theories, look them up. They're on Facebook. They're very, very.
I'm just saying the ganja must be good in Australia. We ain't come from Australia, people.
Yeah.
Get a grip. Maybe when it was Pangea, we came from Australia, but no, we didn't come from Australia.
No. But there are certain aspects and creatures that absolutely.
I don't have no pouch.
Well,
Jay ain't got no pouch either, so don't
no,
say that.
The pouch has been removed, and we saw the result. No,
Yes, you see, that's what happens.
I can't put my
Now
camera
you
on.
watch, you Aussies in 100,000 years or 500,000 years, you're going to grow a pouch. Don't ask me.
If it's a good
weird
adaptation, that's what mutations are about. That's why we have, like, kitty cats have retracting claws. It's a good adaptation. It means you look innocent and cute, and then all of a sudden, boom, these razor sharp knives come out of your fingertips. That's a great adaptation. I wish I had those.
Yeah, marsupials are weird. Yeah, they're weird animals, people.
Very strange.
Yes, you ever watch one give birth?
Mammal,
They're Australia give birth.
Cold-blooded. They're part of every type of creature on the planet, including laying eggs.
Yeah, life got stuck down there and had to figure out a way to it just proves one point, though. Life will figure out a damn way. Whatever kind of weird way it is. Well, so the Aborigines talk about extraterrestrials. The ancient Aztecs, Mayans, Toltecs. Well, the Toltecs we don't know for sure. There's some stuff on some temples, but there's so little writings left of the Toltecs, it's hard to say. And it's even worse than that. They have found new cities now, thanks to LIDAR, that they don't know who the hell they belong to. They know they date back 4,000 to 5,000 years, puts them around the same time of the Great Pyramids of Giza, but that's it. They don't know anything more than that about them. They're just kind of left. Like, so I was talking to a friend yesterday about this, and he asked me about who built the pyramids. Well, everybody always wants to make this huge mystery out of the pyramids, but there is a lot of writing from the pharaohs and the priests about the pyramids. So it was I can't say his name right. Snafu and Khufu, or the original pyramid builders.
Khufu and Khafre, or if it's more easy,
one's the father, one's the son.
Cheops is the father, and Khafren is the son, and Menkaure is the mother.
But they were calling him Snafu or something last night.
Their other names are Khafre and Khufu. Khufu is Cheops, and Khafre is Khafren.
So anyway, they talked about it in great detail. So we know he built one of them built 3 pyramids, which one of them was the bent pyramid, because practice makes perfect. One of them was not. I don't know if you'd call it a pyramid. I'm not exactly sure what you would call it. And then he built a true pyramid. And then the next 2 were real true pyramids. So it's not like we didn't have a reference. We started here and was effed up, and we made it to here over these two emperors. So we knew they did it. It wasn't extraterrestrials. They built the damn pyramids. So people, stop it. Read. Damn. All I'm saying is I'd like to think it was the extraterrestrials that built the pyramids too. And I would like to think there was something fancy dancy. But, when you think about this, all they did was the small, because these pyramids we're talking about were a little bit small until they built the Great Pyramid. They just took everything they did for the small pyramids and upsized it. Yeah. And by the way, they did use, it's actually written in some places, they did use elephants to move big rocks around. Yeah. So you got an 80-ton rock. Okay, put 6 elephants on it. They're going to tow it around like it ain't shit. It's that's the point. I mean, we want to make this into something. I don't know why we have this need to make ourselves look bad or feel bad. We're humans. We're not completely stupid. We do figure stuff out. Look, we figured out quite a lot of things over the years. So maybe somewhere earlier, in life. There might have been some kind of intervention, something we may have learned here and there. But the pyramids seem to be, maybe it was a challenge from the extraterrestrials, because we do know it looked like a couple of them served as emperors or kings, whatever you want to call them, pharaohs. We do know that. So maybe it was a challenge. Say, look, here's how you do it. Now you do it. Because we really don't know.
Well, the fact that they were built probably in the order of 20,000 BCE at the latest, 16,500 at the earliest. That's a long way back. That totally rewrites every history book in every country of this planet.
Well, no, because we know when those two pharaohs lived, and there was only one was 4,500 years, and one was around the same
I think
time.
we have a lot of data that's misconstrued here as well, because there's a lot of dates.
No, because they've got the pharaohs before and after. So there's a line of succession. They know where he belongs. They know where it's supposed to be. So
yeah,
we know that
clear, building dates, starting dates for the building of it. They're mentions in the pyramid text. They mention the materials they're using to use as cover stones over the pyramids. And
I don't think if the pyramids were 16,000 years old, I don't think they would have survived. The amount of rain that fell back and during the time of the ice age and all ended, it would have been catastrophic for the pyramids. They would have washed those fine lines out. You'd had water coming in all over the place. It eventually would have collapsed them. Since all of that was sandstone.
In a
you know what's funny about this? You know what's really funny about this? If it would have been rain, there would have been residual left over from the sandstone. There's not. At the bottom of the pyramids, there is no sandstone.
That's why, I guess, because the sandstone was replaced afterwards by the Egyptians.
No. I mean the sand itself. There's nothing there. It was never there. They've talked about this before. They wanted to know what happened because they figured they don't think anybody took the blocks off the thing. They just think they melted over time, over 4,000 or 5,000 years. They would have just melted, just like they would have been.
Very soft stone, and it erodes very quickly.
Yeah. So, but it should have been mixed in with the sand around it, but it wasn't.
Well, and I think the reason why
there wasn't even any sign of it, which was weird.
There may be deep down under that sand, but the reason why there's that sand is when the flood came, all that silt came and just when it settled, that sand came down from wherever. It could have come from Miami. We don't know where that sand came from. It could have come from here.
If you're assuming the pyramids were built, and I don't think the pyramids could have held up to the flood.
I think the pyramids were built and established before the flood, were washed over by the flood, and then that's why, I mean, somehow over a long amount of time, the Sphinx was buried up to its neck.
The Sphinx was, but the pyramids weren't.
The Great Pyramid was like the bent corner of it, the bent top corner of it. That's it.
No, you could see the whole base of the pyramid. They show them back almost 500 years ago. They got pictures. Well, they got drawings. I'm not pictures, but they were showing the base even then. They were never covered. They were definitely built after the flood. They were built.
They're still quite buried, though.
They because you can see on two of them. You can see the four cornerstones, which are on the base. That's as low as you can go, unless you're going underground. That's as low as you can go. And they're just the pyramids have been there for a long time. Besides that, if they would have done like you said, it would have been like that. It would have been flap, and you'd have had 1.5 pieces still showing on the other side.
Okay, yeah, you're right. It is not buried, but the Sphinx was buried up to its neck.
Oh, the Sphinx was that's always been my argument. So we know the Sphinx was built long before the pyramids. We know that because of two things: the depth of the sand, because it was like right here, and when you got the sand off, you could see that fine erosion that wasn't made from sand; it was made from water. So we know, and there's not that on the pyramids. That's one of the things that aggravated the two brothers and the guy who went over there. That's one of the things that aggravated them. They were like, they thought the pyramids were at least as old as Sphinx, and then in the end they had to concede no, Sphinx was built earlier. But then they got to arguing about, was the complex where the Sphinx was built earlier, or did someone come in and build a complex around the Sphinx?
I think the complex was started with there actually were two Sphinxes built, one on the east side, one on the west side, each facing that cardinal direction. We haven't found the second Sphinx. We don't know where it is, but it's somewhere to the west of that valley.
Chris, have faith.
The complex, and the first two things built were at least those two Sphinxes.
Yeah. So no, Chris, behave now. We're going to get into the UFO stuff. This is actually UFO stuff. This is setting the baseline for what we could do and what we couldn't do. So when you're listening to Jay and I talk, we don't always agree, but there's a lot of stuff we do agree on. And when it gets to the pyramids, probably somebody gave us the knowledge to build part of it, because
Or
or else
technologies to
or
help.
what's
That's
or what's
precise
his name
cutting.
wouldn't have, yeah, but what's his name screwed up to him. So I'm not thinking it was as precise as we all thought it was in the beginning. The things that make me think there might have been somebody else was when you see the hieroglyphs of like the tubes look like they're producing electricity and light. These are deep in. They've got these other things that running in that look like they're supplying maybe air or something. That stuff. Now, granted, I'm not saying our ancestors couldn't have invented something like that. I mean, they could have had somebody up there turning a wheel, pumping air down there, and they could have figured out how to. I mean, they supposedly look like eels, but we know
Something has to explain how they lit those buildings. So the Dendera descriptions you're talking of, the light
and
bulbs,
people
there's no
remember.
soot. There's no soot. You would need soot.
Yeah,
For,
there's
you
no
would
soot, and that's always been a problem. There's no soot, so there had to be some type of light bulb. We know that the Greeks learned how to electroplate from the Egyptians. They said that, so they already knew about electricity, not like y'all thinking about electricity. So it may have
like
been the Egyptians had
double A
discovered
battery
something,
type electricity, but that's electricity that they had.
or maybe the Egyptians discovered it. Maybe somebody gave it to them. But what I think is, I really think, because they mentioned, I forgot which emperor it was. They mentioned the payroll because these weren't slaves. They were talking about what they paid and what it cost to feed them in the whole 9 yards, and how much it would be today. It would be something like $11 trillion today. It was fucking outrageous. It's I know it's outrageous, man. So, but the point is they had the people, they had the animals, they had the rock, and they had the knowledge. So I don't see why they couldn't build it themselves. Now, let's go this route. What were they building it for? I'm not buying the bullshit that we put in one person. And I've seen the inside of several chambers now. They don't look. They look like they were designed for something else. They line up with Orion. It's almost like they were trying to tell somebody something, or say, "Hey, look, we're ready now. We built what you said. You see how they are." Because it's more than just those three pyramids. People, you see the three pyramids in the front. They actually also line up with the constellation, not off the other side of Orion.
Well,
And
there's
then
another
there's
thing
other
you're
places.
forgetting about as well. A very important part that they've taken out of the Grand Gallery in the Khufu Pyramid. It's like 10 or 12 jed pillars, very ornately carved. I don't know if they're made out of alabaster, but they have copper and other things around them, basically Tesla coils. So, and these have not been shown. The antiquities have taken these things out of the Grand Gallery and scarfed them away somewhere in the Egyptian museums, and no one has seen them ever since. So we don't even know what these things are or what they could do. If they're if jed pillars are like a Tesla coil, then absolutely that building was some sort of a generator for power.
Yeah, it's you can't really argue whether it was or wasn't. I mean, it's just a lot of things that went on there. It makes you wonder what the hell was really going on. It does seem like there was some type of contact, but I don't think it was quite the way people want to make it out to be. We were too stupid to build anything, and we had to have these
Well,
extraterrestrials come
another
building us.
point that I always make is the Egyptians of the fourth dynasty, who are credited with the building of these pyramids, their hardest object they operated with was brass, which is basically copper.
Yeah, pretty soft.
And it's very soft. It's like it's only as hard as your fingernails and your teeth. And it will make marks on rocks, but it's like the chalk. The brass is the chalk, and your other rock is the chalkboard, and you're just grinding away the brass. They didn't have the technology to cut granite, so somebody with higher technology made the granite parts. Now the sandstone you could easily cut with brass implements, but the implements are missing. The tool no one has found the tools. You would need, as Chris Dunn puts it, circular saws, at least 2 or 3 of them, from 17 to 21 foot diameter, to cut some of the stones that are in place.
Oh no, I don't think they use saws. Not like you think of saws, anyway. So I think they use I think they use a combination, because I've seen an Egyptian doing this just the other day, and he said he learned this from his great grandfather. So
I've seen those tricks. Yeah.
They take, well, this is just a piece of string,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost just like diamond dust they put on, and they just and it
That's
cut
how soft limestone
smooth
is. Yeah.
and
And
pretty
you need that.
and
If
clean.
you know where the cleaving points are, you can hit it with a hammer, and it'll snap off in a straight
Well,
line.
they didn't have to. No, what they did was, so there was 6 of them in a row, 3 on each side, and they would just the next one would, man, they cut through this stone like it was
Yeah,
nothing. I mean,
yeah.
they cut through the whole stone.
You know.
They had a little line drawn down it. They cut along their little line perfectly. They cut all the way across. The whole stone was smooth on the top. It was really nice, dude. It looked a lot like William stones you see on
Yeah.
the pyramids. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking there was, and plus we do know that the Egyptians understood water pressure. So with that and combination of water pressure, you might not have needed any fancy tools to cut with. Those two.
Any
I
one
mean,
of
come
those
on, think what we use water pressure today to cut stuff.
Well, any
Way
one of those
harder than
is a
stone.
valid explanation. The one that catches my eye the most, though, is there's 3 boat pits. They're like elongated oval shaped pits out in front of the Great Pyramid. And in one of them, they call them the boat pits because in one of them they found a disassembled sail barge. That sail barge was recreated, and they now have it in the museum right there on the site. Now, I don't think those pits were made to disassemble a boat. The boat was disassembled in honor of somebody who died, probably Khufu, and they put his boat there. Chris Dunn proposes that that's where they had 3 circular saw blades that cut the big blocks of limestone, which would do the same trick.
Yeah, blade though. I mean, to cut. I mean, you need a steel blade to cut through rock, and you need a lot of
brass.
water.
Yes, you would. Well, I mean,
You need a lot of
you
water.
probably do it with brass if you're using limestone. For the granite, you would need definitely
But
harder metal.
when you're talking about, because we know they brought them in on barges. That's how they got it here, is on barges. So by thinking about that, by bringing them down on barges, it would have been nice if ET would have just picked them up and sent them back down. But it doesn't look like that's how it went down. But if you've already got them on barges and you're already in the water, you could have set 2 rollers on each side of the barge with your ropes and had your guys on there while you were transporting it down. You could have been cutting it to size you wanted it.
Yeah.
You would have had your water there. You'd have had everything you need. And we already know they had access to diamonds and lots of them.
That's another good point you just made. That's a building point. You and I were kind of in the building trades. You're an actual builder. I sell hardware. Actually, I just move hardware as freight. But and Chris Dunn is a building engineer. And all 3 of us agree that you would absolutely have to have. Oh God, I lost my point. What did you just say?
We were talking about cutting the stone with diamond, with water and
so Chris Dunn's point is you would absolutely have, like, there's a guy on site who says, "Oh, we need a rock this dimension stat," and you cut it right there on site and get it ready. So the good point you made there. So you would absolutely have to have the tools handy to do this. They had to have those, and it wasn't
and if you were using rope and diamond stuff like that, all that stuff would have just disintegrated into sand, be long gone. Yeah, especially the diamond pieces are so small, it would just look like grains of sand. So those kind of things would make sense. I know. I was talking with some Egyptologists about 3 years about this, and he goes, "Can I use that?" I'm like, "Yeah." He said, I said, he's like cussing and stuff. He said, I said, "Dude, I learned it from y'all." He's like, "What?" I said, I said, "I've seen this twice in my life. I've seen it once when I was about 19. I was actually in the Navy at the time. And I've seen it again on a TV show a while back, a couple of years back. And on both times, that's how they were doing it. But when we seen it in, that was the funniest part. And it never registered in my head because I wasn't in this stuff back then. I still remember this. We're docked. And we're all getting our ship going to when I'm watching this guy, and he's over there with this rope. And this guy's cutting, and I'm cussing at the time. I'm like, this bleeping guy's cutting a bleeping stone with a rope. How the hell are you doing that? And I'm watching it cutting. I'm like, what the hell? So, stupid me. I walked over there. No speaking no Egyptian at all. Thank God. A couple of people spoke good English. So I walked over and I asked him, and he shows me, and I grabbed the rope and it cut me. And I realized, oh, shit, it's sharp. And then, I didn't realize later what kind of stone it was because the diamond will cut anything. I mean, and if you've got some strong guys, and if you know the thickness of your rope,
had access to diamond to do some of the precision work at these pyramids. But I disagree. If they had access to corundum is the next hardest material after diamond. And with the technology they had, they could easily crush it into a powder or a dust and put it into a string or a rope and make a rope
and the best part about that is by knowing the size of your channels or your holes or your cuts, you could make the thickness of your rope so we don't have to make one cut. cover them and make. So I mean, if you were going, if you were going for a stand, it was like a 16th of an inch, and that's what your rope would be, and that's what you'd cut with a 16th. I imagine you'd be wearing out rope every 6 inches or so. So I imagine they would make hundreds of feet of it, but still, it's an easy way to do it.
They would probably have it in several layers, so it's not just one.
And we may even got some help with this. Just last night, I was watching something about Egypt, and they found where they were building one. They couldn't find out why they had all these pots, water. They call them water pots next to this place. It was just for water. He said, but you can tell it's not for drinking because it's got like a thing on the side that pops and you tip, and you got a thumb thing so you can control the water coming out. He's like, it's not for, he said, I'll show you one for drinking. And he pulls one over. He said, I don't know what these were for. Now we know what the hell they were for. That's the guy up there with the water over the rope going controlling the flow. Well, people, you got to have water when you're cutting with stone. You're cutting stone. Oh, yeah.
Or
doesn't matter what you're cutting with. Oil, yeah.
Oil, too, because it lasts longer.
Lubricates on the way through. Use oh, man, they got special oils made for it, but
all those are great points. And some of the major points that I always bring up is you'd have to be able to, on demand, get the rock you needed cut to size. So the rocks have to be, on site as building materials in rough sizes. You'd absolutely have to have the tools. We haven't found the tools. They make almost none of the tools, and maybe it's all, if they're all rope tools for cutting, there's your explanation. But there's other tools you need, levels, and most of their tools they're all wood, most of them.
I know we got to switch topics in a minute, but I do remember watching them level. What do you call them? What you call them? It's like a monolith, but it's a different name. But anyway, I was watching. Yeah, obelisk. I was watching them put one up, right? And I'm watching this guy. So they dig a hole and they slide it in the hole.
Yeah,
and it's standing up. And then they just start filling it with sand, and it starts rising up until they get it to where they want, and then they pack it out. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the coolest.
But I never thought about doing it like that. But hey, it worked.
It works.
It works. I mean, Jimmy,
that's advanced physics too, by the way.
To answer your question, Jimmy, it's so it's kind of like we know Egypt was visited by extraterrestrials, and we know so by doing what Jay and I are doing right now, it helps us to find exactly where, if there was interference, exactly where were they interfering. So in this case, were they giving them like the blueprint for the thing, saying, "Okay, look, this is what you need," and they may even tell them, you could use this, and this as tools to do it, because they want us to develop. I mean, that's the whole point. And then were they actually using it from like in Stargate, Daniel Jackson has it as a landing spot. So there's one of the Mayans. So this was a great picture, by the way. I seen this yesterday. I've seen it before. So there's a picture of a Mayan. It's Kublai Khan. No, what you call it? The big city, the one behind Mexico City, the one
that's
in front of the
Teotihuacan.
Yeah. So they got these pictures of it. So they got the sun and the moon pyramids, and then all the little pyramids on the side.
Well, so they also have the 9 planets.
Yeah. So there's a picture that was taken in 1918, I believe, and it looks like a saucer sitting on each of the big ones and littler saucers sitting on each of the smaller ones, just sitting there. Actually, they look like they're actually hovering above it a little bit. So a guy,
you got to find that picture and show it.
Oh, Jesus! It was on. I ain't gonna mention the name because they pissed me off, but it was on this sci-fi show. I'm not mentioning their name. No. But it was on this sci-fi show. So then they show the other picture, which is a modern picture of the same thing. It's weird. I've also seen a drawing like that. So the Mesoamericans seem to have had much more contact than a lot of other races did. Even what do you mean, the North Americans, the Native Americans? The Native Americans came from the Mesoamericans, yes. And we're not even sure if when they came to South America, what was it, 400 years ago, that somebody didn't bring them into North America, because they did find, I think it was one of the Pueblo villages, they found conquistadors' helmets. Yes, a couple of them. Well, the first time I heard it, there was only one. Then all of a sudden, there was four. I would imagine the Native Americans lopped their freaking heads off, is what I would imagine. These guys come walking out with these big things on their head, these things all over their arms, shields and swords. Yeah, I don't know. Being the fact that maybe it might have been a trade, the conquistadors may have made a trade with the Native Americans for something. But Mesoamericans, usually when you hear somebody say Mesoamericans, they mean South Americans, Central Americans.
Did you hear that there was a new Mayan city discovered in Guatemala? I don't know how long ago, but recently, very recently.
Yeah.
And it's on the western border of Mexico in Guatemala, and it's called Los Abuelos, the grandparents.
Yeah, the one we watched last night showed 3 new cities, one of them quite big. And then they decided, let me show you what the Toltec Empire was. So it was huge. It spanned really from it really spanned from the bottom of the United States all the way through Central America, well into South. I mean, into South America. At least half of it. At least it might even been more than half. They're not sure, but at least half of all of South America belonged to them. They were a huge empire. They were. I don't know who. I guess Genghis Khan might be the next. Yeah,
it's the largest one to date.
Yeah, it was huge, and then they were gone. Well, most of us think that, I forgot which order they came in: Aztecs, Incans, Mayans.
Well, there's the Olmecs too, even before that.
I think it's
Olmec, Toltec, and then Mayan.
No, there's Aztecs, Incans, and Mayans. So you had those 3. So you had I don't know which one came first. I'd actually have to go sit down and look it up.
Let me see if we can find out.
Well, in a lot of ways, they were the same. Well, the Toltecs is just not that much information on. There's no writings hardly at all. They didn't feel a need to write. Same thing at the city we were just talking about in Mexico. The city Jay and I was talking about is right behind Mexico City. It's right in front of a mountain range and right behind Mexico City.
Yeah, Teotihuacan, city of the gods.
It's not even that far from Mexico City, which, by the way, has 22 million people living in it, or more by now. It's a very interesting place. Well, it looks like the Mesoamericans did things a little differently. It looks like they had like places they lived in these big areas. And a lot of them, they were used for different things like sports complexes I'm pretty sure 2 of them, they found some type of sports complex or sacrifice complex or both. But it didn't look like anybody lived there. There was no things out in the woods or weeds, any type of village kind of stuff. But there are other ones where there are what you would call little huts and villages and stuff. So it looks like it might have been like it is in any big city. This was a mammoth-sized city. City about the size of Texas, I would believe.
I'm not really finding one that has all of those in at once, but as I recall, I think it's Olmec, Toltec, Aztec, and then Mayan. I think it goes in that order.
But you still got the Incans.
They're in the middle with somewhere in between the Incans, the Aztecs, and they're way early. There's quite a few, but I think they're all really pretty much all one very similar group of civilizations, kind of like.
It's like they split and went on their little owns and occupied part of the areas, but were never big enough to occupy the whole empire. Maybe the Mayans. Somebody told me the Mayans did the whole empire, and when and nobody could ever understand this. The Mayans had all this power, all this land, all this gold, all this money, and one little Spanish conquistador came over here and kicked his ass because he was written about ahead of time. Even drawing. I mean, they had drawings about it. That was weird.
Wow. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, which seems to be a good authority, the answer for who the largest ancient empire is the Achaemenid Empire from 480 BC. So that's even bigger than anything we're talking about.
And I don't even know who the hell it is. I'm gonna have to do some research on that.
They're old.
So I mean, getting back to it, though. Hey, Michael, getting back to it. So we have all these ancient races going across. Just South America. We haven't even got into the Middle East or anything.
Yeah.
Every one of those races said they had sky people contact. It's not like it was one or any. All of them did. So then you hop your ass up to North America. We in North America, they got some Indians up here, and they ain't never seen no aliens. Shit, I have yet to meet a tribe that hasn't seen aliens. It's kind of weird. I mean, it really is. It's just kind of weird.
And the real takeaway is that why is it that it's mostly natives that not wired into the main internet like we all are. Simple tribal people. They know all these answers. Why are they?
They've got the closest relationship. I mean, if you know Native Americans, especially if you go there. I mean, most of us have been out there and talked to people, but they got daily encounters with aliens. I mean, they see stuff all the time, every day, day and night. They're very common in their culture. The sky people, the ant people, whatever you want to call them, every last one's got a good relationship, and they look at them as like the shepherds. They look at them like the ones who are watching over, what the Navajo called the Denai, that type of stuff, a Dene or whatever they say. Interesting stuff, though.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I absolutely 100% agree. I mean, it just seems that the people that are that have the higher educations and the electronic toys and all the cool gadgets are clueless as to what's actually going on in and around the atmosphere of our planet.
It's also interesting there's such a high content of uranium out there. Very interesting in these areas. I mean, look at Shiprock. That's where you see a lot of the skinwalkers. That's very common among the Navajo. They talk about skinwalkers. They have a blog, and then when you go on there, there's just different people saying, "Hey, I saw one by the treetops over there. Someone running past me at 70 miles an hour." Like crazy stuff like that. Yeah. Man.
$6 million man doesn't even run 70 miles an hour. Insane.
My friend's father told the story. They're not even Native American. They live in what the hell is that? It's just by Shiprock. It's I can't think of it right this second because I'm doing something else. But anyway, it's about maybe 30 miles from Shiprock, And then you get on that road. The road used to be called Route 666. And then they changed the name because later on people didn't want the name. When I drove up, and it was Route 666 back in 1990. But so this guy was driving down from Shiprock area to Gallup. It's just the one road that goes down there, And he said he's driving a big dually, big Ford dually, Got a gun. He had a rifle, of course, like most of these guys got on the back window and that type of stuff. So he's driving down. 65 miles an hour, he said, around there. Something starts running next to him, pounding at the window, like trying to get at him. And he looked at it, and he said it looked like a wolf or a coyote with glowing red eyes, but it was basically human, too. It was clawing at him, trying to get at him, and he like sped up, and it was running faster. He finally got away from it, By the time he got to Gallup, sometime later, because it takes a while to get down there, he went to a gas station and looked at his truck, and he saw blood all on the side and nail marks into his paint. That's some serious stuff, man. And this guy was like basic Christian, I mean, not the guy making up these stories. I'm not saying Christians don't lie, but I'm saying like straight-laced type of dude. But this thing happened to him, and then he was flipped out,
A lot of weird stuff like that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen, but I mean, they're supposed to be like witches, some type. They're into the evil. They have to sacrifice something to get those powers. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. But that's not. You know what? Some cultures say skinwalker. I think that they exist in other cultures too. We see all kinds of creatures like that. So I don't know.
I've always had a problem with Skinwalker. Like Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, I spent 3 weeks out there, man. 3 weeks. I spent more time out there by myself than probably anybody who's been there. And still, there ain't crap goes on out there.
Yeah, but you go to that shiprock in the back there. There's a cave that nobody goes into. It's just all this ice cold air comes out, and everybody says that you get the craziest feeling. One guy was there with his camera looking up, and the huge boulder came right at his ass, man, like flying at him. They got the hell out of there. So there's mystical stories, right? I mean, it'd be fun to
I'd go there.
investigate, it'd be fun to explore. I'd like to check that out.
I'd go in there, man. In a heartbeat. Damn ghosties don't like me.
After New Orleans, you know what?
Ghosties don't like me. No, it's weird. I'm telling you, dude. Ghosties don't. I have been places that people, good friends of mine too, and I watch them get stuff on video. I mean, scary stuff, and they always tell me. So now, when they want to do a clearing, they said, "Joe, you coming with us?" I'm like, "Why?" He said, "Because you're the best clearer I've ever seen." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Man, anytime we bring you anywhere, there is no ghosties." He said, "We go back, there's no ghosties." He's like, "What do you got, like ghost magnet killer on you?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But he's right. I was going. I've been invited to several. It's called Dinner with a Ghost. It's good. They make a lot of money doing this, man.
I'll bet.
And they charge you about it. Well, it's always at a high end old restaurant. They love doing it in New Orleans because there's several 3 and 4 and 5-star restaurants there that are 200 years old, 150, 180. You go to Quarter Two Sisters, I think it's 150. You go to Antoine's, which of course Antoine's supposed to be the vampire Anne Rice writes about. There's a couple of other Andres and stuff like that. These are all old restaurants. And they're in buildings that are 200, 250, 300 years old. So, they go in and they get a private room where somebody's seeing something. They serve dinner in there. And the head dinner or the head spot is for the ghost. So I've watched it many times do these, get all kind of stuff. EVPs, weird stuff moving on things, stuff coming in, strange voices, cold spice. I go, it's like, crickets. It's just like crickets, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but don't let me go anywhere there's aliens, man. Them bitches are everywhere then. It's a friend of mine says, he said, your natural protection. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, somebody must have, he said, maybe living in New Orleans growing up when you was a kid, you developed some kind of natural protection. I was like, I don't know, man. And then somebody got mad at me because I was talking about this at a lecture I was doing. A guy and the girl got really mad. Well, you just don't believe us. It's not about believing. I said, I have no doubt that ghosties and demons exist. I said, it's not that I don't exist. I said, I want harder proof than a flashlight rolling across a floor blinking at me. I said, I wanted to go say, hey, Joe, how you been, man? What you been up to? Yeah, I know about what you did the other day. You want me to tell everybody? No. I want some proof, man. I want some bullshit.
I saw you in the bathroom, man. I know what you were doing. I know what you were doing.
I saw you in the shower the other day.
I got nothing to do but watch you.
On your computer, man. Let me have your computer. Let me show everybody what you look at.
Hang out all day.
I mean, but I have nothing against people who do it. I mean, I got a lot of friends in the paranormal field. I don't give them any trouble for it. I just happen to be into aliens, and aliens are freaky weird enough for me as it is.
We got to move on, though, from paranormal. After this, I got a video of the mothership and all these UFOs above the moon going into it.
Put it up. We always look at stuff like that.
All kinds of stuff. It was witnessed by multiple people in different areas on the planet, which is crazy.
When you talk to contactees, they talk about shit like that. Group sightings, group weird stuff like that. Yeah. And contactees are so freaking empathic and telepathic. Sometimes I wonder when there's a group of them together if they're not creating something with their own mind, because they're very powerful telepaths. At least most of them are. It's just they don't know what they're doing.
I think that with all the cameras, at some point we're going to see some stuff. You ever notice that NASA shuts off their camera as soon as people start seeing something, they shut the camera off. Because a whole squadron
I forgot which mission it was, but because of that mission, they added a 7-second delay, and then that wasn't enough. They added a 7-minute delay. They're like, okay, well, you'll get to see. It'll be back on in a minute, or what you're seeing is always 7 minutes behind. So in case there's some Santa Claus is flying with his reindeers up there, they don't want you to see that shit.
Yeah, they can add in sound effects garbled transmission, so they can add it so it sounds like you don't get any top secret info by accident.
I mean, several of the Apollo, Mercury, and Gemini astronauts reported seeing UFOs. I mean, I was just talking about this 2 days ago with a friend. I was having lunch with Edgar Mitchell and Buzz Aldrin, and we were talking about this very thing. And he told me he didn't know any astronauts that didn't have some kind of weird UFO
Every mission had them.
He said, Edgar said, Buzz said he was just sitting up there cruising along one day thinking, oh, I guess they're going to come swarm my ship like they did Alan Shepard's. And sure enough, they did. And that's supposed to be some kind of weird fire things that the Aborigines did. They called it firebugs. Hell if I know what it was. Hell if they knew what it was. Nobody knew what the hell it was, and didn't hurt anything, didn't harm anybody, didn't do any damage to the capsules, which it happened. And they got it on film. So there's a lot of things they got on film that they won't release, and that's why I love NASA when they say we lost the film.
Yeah, or we came over it.
Now, if this was Friday night, I would use stronger language than that. But since it's not, I'm not going.
Oh wow!
Yeah, put that up there in the sky. Wait, that ain't it. That's your ugly face.
So now look at that, right? But there's a video, so it's not just that. There's that, but I mean that's the close up. I mean that's interesting looking to me.
And it's our moon. What's the body?
Yes, it's our moon. The large craft appears in the center, surrounded by 3 smaller UFOs before disappearing beneath the moon. But here's the video itself. Let me play the video.
Play it.
Okay. I've got my Tommy rod locked on now.
Look at that. That's interesting, right?
That looks like Enterprise.
They're glowing. It's kind of glowing. Going to the base on the moon.
Yeah, where Edgar Neil Armstrong said they were.
Well, put it this way. As an investigator, I don't know what it is. I would think what else?
It doesn't show intelligent maneuvering, but it is unusual.
Well, what else?
It could be rocks. It could be small rocks.
That ain't rocks.
Good.
That ain't rocks.
You can't make any detail out of that. It could be rocks and metal.
What the hell?
How did that happen?
Station identification.
I don't know what that was. I hit the wrong button, I guess. Station ID, like United Public.
What do you think of that?
Weird.
That's a crap.
It's weird.
It's weird. I couldn't tell you what the hell it was. It was weird. Like Jamie Lee Curtis. Oh, I love your name. You don't see when you see stuff like this, you assume. Because it does have a shiny surface on it. They are kind of rectangular shaped.
Yeah, comets have shiny surfaces, though.
I mean,
comets have tails.
If you're going to hoax, you can do a lot better than this. You know what I mean?
Well, that doesn't have a tail, so we can rule out a comet. And it just changed direction, so.
You're going pretty slow. I mean, slow to the eye, but, probably pretty quick. But they're all flying together.
It's hard to say. What the hell is that? Hello, that's what I'm saying, man. I got to keep my fingers on the button.
Whoa!
Sorry about that, guys. Whoa! Okay, there we go. We don't know what it was. It's why it's called a UFO, unidentified flying object. In this case, unidentified floating object.
The smaller ones are all the same size.
Direction, though, I don't know if they are.
Watch. Yeah, one of the times it looks like they changed direction.
The smaller ones are all the same size.
In an arc, really, but I
mean,
they could.
It's hard to tell from that distance.
The smaller ones are all the same size. They're all look at it. They're all the same. The large one's a large one, but the smaller ones are all the same size.
They do seem to be flashing, though.
They're glowing. Some kind of glowing.
I wouldn't say glowing. I would say flashing, or rotating, even like a rotating.
Nah, that's not flashing like an emergency flasher. It's glowing.
No,
it depends on the interaction from the camera. Like how you shoot like an LED. The LED is going to flash. but it depends. It may not have been glowing, but the camera may show as
It might be
glowing.
not only the slow mo, but it looks like it's rotating.
No,
in this.
we definitely moved in distance. I mean, the top one and the middle
They're
one's
definitely
definitely
moving.
further apart, and now it's coming back in closer from the turn.
Yeah.
They responded to each other. That's cool.
All of them moving independently.
They all
Or
look like they
they're all
had
part of
some.
one craft. We don't see the whole thing.
Well, do you think there's a base on the dark side of the moon? A lot of people say there are.
Oh
I
yeah,
think there's
well,
lots of bases on the other side of the moon, like tens of thousands of them.
Do you think the moon's a base? You think the moon is really hollow?
Yeah, but not for us.
yeah. Aliens like stay up. We'll find out. China's fixing to go there.
Yeah.
Some
China's
private
fixing to go.
company. Oh yes, by the way, there's a private company going to land the lander there. I think real soon.
Where, on the dark side?
They were talking about it earlier. Let me see if I can find the article.
Somebody's going to get their shit lost.
I was watching Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Morons.
Too late.
Jay said that people. I'm nice. I did not say that.
Let's go back to this.
Oh, speaking of, y'all don't let me forget Friday night. I want to talk about the Ukraine surprise attack on Russia.
Oh yeah, I have video. I got the video.
Yes, I know. Don't save it. Yeah, we're gonna need it Friday night. We can't play it on here, but we're gonna need it Friday
Yeah,
night.
I got the video of the
It
drone.
was
right
dang good.
Plane flying around the plane like a bee. Then boom, dozens, dude, dozens. They blew up.
Gene, there's. I'll tell you what, Gene. On Friday night, we host a show called News on the Flip Side. We'll be there along with 3 other people. Come on by. We'll be talking about a lot. There's a lot of news to talk about. There's quite a few things to talk about. Court cases with Trump, new projections for the Ukraine, just a lot. And nothing we can really talk about on here. This is UFO Undercover, so we're not allowed to talk about that. Yes, we're not allowed to curse in this show either. Yes, I know this show is PG-13 because some of the topic matter we talk about can get scary. Woo, like that. Cheese and pizza, man. Come on.
That's the one they tried to abduct and they couldn't get her up in the ship.
I bet you not. Poor ship probably came down on the ground. We're sorry, babe. We're just picking on you. We are being bad.
They were trying to get me in the ship. They need an extra beam.
Well, Kamala, you liking Kamala Harris? Send me your best UFO videos. Yeah, send them to me. We can play them right here. Well, okay. I'm old now. I was born before the sun actually came up. So my problem is I don't really see that all that much new stuff. Jay and I sat here for 2 hours twice now, going through what we can find on the web. And really for the 2000s, there's not much.
Not a lot.
It's, the 80s, the 60s, 70s, 80s were reeking with it. 90s had some pretty decent ones. And then all of a sudden, poof.
Mostly minor abduction stories. And then
think about this, ladies and
stuff comes what, 2017?
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah, but think about this, ladies and gentlemen. There are more cameras moving around on our planet right now than any time in history. There's at least 1 billion people out there with cameras, probably more like 3 billion.
Yeah.
And because we all have a phone with a camera in it. And yet the amount of pictures, and wait, these are high def 4K, 8K pictures. And we're not even getting, but still fuzzy jump.
Each phone usually has at least 2 cameras in it, sometimes 3.
Yeah, this one's got 5. And this one right here, 128 megapixel.
I don't know what mine is, but
I should be able to see a pimple on your ass.
1, 2, 3 lenses on this side and 1 lens on that side. So it's like 4
so
cameras
you got 4. Yeah, see, you never know what. Well, they got all kind of cameras. And they got those slow motion cameras.
Speaking of camera, I did get another camera for the ghost hunt.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was. Wait, I am moving. Wait, watch this. I'm gonna move so slow that I'm invisible. Y'all don't remember that from Guardians of the Galaxy. Shame on you people. There's no real nerds listening to us tonight. Boo. Boo. Y'all probably don't even know what Princess Bride is. Double boo.
Oh, God.
Double, triple boo.
Bride?
Quadruple boo. My most favorite case.
What kind of case? Because there's like all different kinds of UFO cases.
My most favorite case. You mean alien abduction, UFO case? I don't know. There's some good ones out there. Well, in the near future, we might do some like cast lantern case. We might just take the whole case apart. Maybe do Shag Harbor, take it apart.
Shag Harbor is very, very interesting.
What, Betty and Barney Hill? Come on, guys! I've obliterated the
We've
Betty and Barney
obliterated
Hill.
that one several times in the last few weeks.
It's well, they're both deceased now, so at least. Oh, you mean Kathleen Maldron? Well, good for her. We definitely do not agree on what happened. And she always tells me the same thing. Well, I'm their niece. Well, bullshit. What's that mean?
Yeah. So what? I mean,
You weren't there when it happened. And I've heard the Simons tapes several times. And I'm a hypnotherapist myself, so I actually know what the frick they mean. And since I do voice stress analysis, I can kind of tell what, people. So, like let's say you're lying to me, okay? And I got you and your wife under hypnosis. And I'm asking you questions. Well, people try to lie under hypnosis, believe it or not. It's like a reflex in their brain.
built it. Yeah. If they lie in
It's
real life, they lie in sleep.
But anyway, they get caught. But the point being is I'm going to know if you're telling me the truth, lying, whether you're hypnotized or not. And I don't like when people waste my time. I can get really
Irritated.
nasty. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, well,
Nice.
no, because if it happened, it happened. If it didn't, it didn't. And if we're in the middle of investigation, we realize that you're really not an abductee or contactee, we'll tell you politely. And if you still have problems, we'll ask you to seek professional help. Have we been wrong? Not yet. We have 124,000 cases on file. We haven't been wrong yet. Because there's this thing we call abduction criteria. So about 50% of it is in the public. Yes. So that contactees and abductees have an easier time of finding. It's like the blood thing. The blood thing doesn't mean because you're Rh negative, it doesn't mean you're an abductee or a contactee, but it puts you that much closer. And then if you go on their website and if you go on the website and you read the questionnaire, you'll find out that you're probably even that much more close, or maybe not. You might not ring on it. But it's the same thing for Rh positive people. No, we think in the beginning it was all Rh positive people, and eventually, through experimentation and whatever else they're doing, they've created a subspecies. Or maybe the O positive is now the subspecies. I don't really know, but somebody's a subspecies.
Well, it's either a mutation or it's an intentional, addition, creating a mutation in the DNA from an external force.
I think that's what it was. I think it was a push that caused mutations. Now, did the aliens do this to be to see how this pans out? Or was this something to help us to evolve faster? Because it does seem like Rh negative people are a little bit more telepathic than Rh positive people. But in general, I have never met a non-contactee that's telepathic or empathic. People always tell me all the time, "Oh, Joe, you're wrong. Everybody has the ability, Joe. You just don't know, Joe. Everybody." I said, "Really? You want to go blink and blank and test this? Come on." I said, "We'll get a deck of cards. We'll go test this. I said, "I'll tell you what. I'll take you to the mall, buy you lunch. While we eat lunch, we'll set up and we'll test 100, 150 random people. And we'll see if any of them have any real psychic ability." We have actually gone to malls where no one tested positive. No one. They all failed. And when you start getting things like this, blue, red color, pick it says blue or red, when they are wrong more than they're right, not only does it mean there's no psychic ability, but
there's no chance of psychic ability.
So, it's well, no, you see, people get mad at me, but it's my job for us as a researcher to get it so we can know where we're going. So if I'm being told everybody's always got psychic abilities, so I'm thinking, oh, everybody's got them. It's not a big deal. Aliens, it's not a thing for aliens. But now we know that's not true. Now we know that the majority of the world is not psychic, and people are psychic or has something to do with the extraterrestrials, or their family's been abducted, or they're being abducted. But anyway it goes.
You should also notice there's more than just that kind of skill. There's also not just the mental abilities, but there are some people with extraordinary extraordinary physical abilities.
There's a lot of weird abilities, and we test for all of them, and it's like telekinesis. Telekinesis is actually the hardest one to
That's
find
the
because
hardest one.
it's nobody has it, or nobody has it to an extent that I mean, don't get me wrong, I've actually seen a couple things I would consider telekinesis, but
I've seen a dude drag something across the table with his mind. I don't know how he did it.
I haven't seen that where let me squeeze a little blood vessel in Michael's brain and kill his ass while he's on air.
No.
I haven't crossed the mics going, what to believe? There's a family rated show, sorry people. But I haven't seen those come, so here's Trump, he's all mad, Putin's all mad. If one of them had a telekinesis, the other one would be dead right now.
Oh yeah.
So same thing for Xi Jinping, and if you make it look like an aneurysm or your heart valve clogged up or closed, nobody can argue with that. Oh well, they died of a heart attack.
It's basically the force grip, like Darth Vader. You could reach out and strangle somebody with your mind. Just squeeze their throat.
So we haven't quite got there yet.
They've been training psychics to kill people in their dreams. I mean, that's been going on since the 60s,
Yep.
Who knows how far along they ever got. But I don't think our brains are developed enough for telekinesis on purpose, because imagine if you could do that with your mind. A lot of people
we're not ready for it. Right? Yeah, we're not ready for it yet.
If you're a fifth grade and your teacher pisses you off and all of a sudden their head pops, you know what I mean?
I have seen two people who lost their temper do some damage, but other than that, they couldn't do it again. I mean, in other words, they couldn't sit down and say, "Okay, let me move the penny." It wouldn't move for them.
But for sure that voodoo is real in Santeria. Like that energy, when people focus the energy on somebody like that, especially when they go into like a ritual,
because they're probably empaths or telepaths. That's probably why.
Yeah, but that's pretty powerful. The ones who are attracted to that become that. But that's pretty powerful stuff. I've seen
it's the same thing. And so have I. But you know what? I've also seen it not work, which leads me to believe that more than likely those people are advanced telepaths or empaths and just don't know it. See, that's the problem here when we get into any kind of abilities like these. You just don't know if I used to tell people all the time, because a lot of friends do magic, and it allows them to be able to work certain abilities. And what it is magic is a crutch. The ability is already there, because if you what you I think you are, those abilities already exist for you, but you need that crutch to be able to push it on.
But what about the Coven? What about the group that all focuses all their energy at one source?
You can do that, but it doesn't always work because a lot of people don't get in tune. But that's what killed remote viewing.
If
it didn't work.
If you can shield yourself.
Well,
yeah.
Remote viewing worked to a degree, but not to the degree that it was, tactically strategic.
Christopher, no, I'm not hating remote viewing. Ed Dames was a friend of mine. We used to talk quite a lot when all this was first going on. No, what happened, guys, is remote viewing is a great thing, but the problem is it's not as good as telepathy. It's just what it comes. See, at first they couldn't find any telepaths. The government was having a hard time finding telepaths. But thanks to people like us and other people who are out there who are testing for this now, the government really knows now there are more telepaths than they thought they were. So
they're just looking for view. Anybody can. You just need to train yourself. I mean, there'll be different levels of success, but I think anybody has that ability. They just have to kind of separate from their brain or focus on the spiritual side of it. You know what I mean?
It's what everybody always says, but it doesn't seem to work that way. And we'll have to wait and see. We got time.
Well, you've seen them do those things with the cards, like two people sitting across from each other, whipping out cards. What's on this card? What's on this card?
Yeah. And that's how we test people. We use that to test people.
Yeah, but some people have a very high degree of success with that. I mean,
one every million, and even they got issues. It's the problem with it is you can. Really, the reason they got rid of remote viewing is because they couldn't tell you what the code is for the. Oh yeah, look, John, there's the nuclear silo. Okay, well, what are you going to do with it? It's not a bleeping thing because you don't have no codes, don't know how to stop it, start it, or anything else. But you know what the telepath does.
Now I saw this one thing. This woman, she would go into these Russian rooms and then see plans on the table and stuff like that. Report that back, and she was right. I mean, she was like right in there.
Well, that's not a remote viewer. That's a telepath.
Well, I mean, whatever it is, it's a success. They call it remote viewing, and
I don't know why they did, because no remote viewers I know would consider it that. that's too fine of a detail for a remote viewer. I'm telling you, that's why you can ask that James. Don't take my word for this. Why they got rid of them? That's why the government defunded the program and opened up a U.S. Navy and a U.S. Air Force for telepaths, because the remote viewing just doesn't get what they need done. They need more information than what a remote viewer can give. Remote viewing was great in the beginning. It showed us that the Russians had these silos in these areas. So
But
we know
it's
in
just too
Siberia.
vague of an information gathering
Yeah.
to be of any tactical advantage. That's why they
Yeah.
stopped using it.
So the remote viewer could tell you, hey, look at all these missiles here. And we knew they were there. But a telepath can pinpoint them. You can say, okay, these are the coordinates, drop your damn bomb right here. Or here's a code to shut the damn missile down. And that's really the difference. But those are very advanced telepaths. That's not just everyday telepaths. Those are people who are trained. And, I would think there are a few telepaths out there that could probably kill you.
Yeah.
But not in a way that most people think, not to squeeze in a body part or anything.
Well, like I said, somebody with supreme control of telekinesis, it would be like the Darth Vader, when he holds people up and strangles them and then throws them across the room. You could do that without touching them.
And it's probably why this all works this way. It was probably designed this way. So we learn remote viewing first, and then we become empaths. And then empaths help us to learn how to use our abilities to become real telepaths. After we've had telepathic abilities for a while and we understand them and we know how they work, and we're all much more open with ourselves because we're all telepaths now, then you can start developing telekinesis. And telekinesis can lead to the ability to heal people through mind power. So all of that is good stuff, but it has to come in phases because and it's probably why whoever introduced RH negative to us did it, to boost us along and move us along. RH positive was just not moving in that direction. It was moving in a different direction. So they gave it a boost. And now we're all moving in that direction. And now we got AI.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, speaking of AI, while we're on this, we got a little rant for AI. So the other day, I'm pulling numbers for Michelle. And I get these numbers and I send them to her. Joe, she goes, Joe, these shows ain't came on. I said, what are you talking about? The thing said they did. Yeah. So I had been teaching my AI on my other computer how to calculate things for me and put them in certain places. And to give me, advanced forecasts on things like, Bitcoin and a few other things. It works pretty decent. Yeah. So what it was doing, and right now I could pull it up and it would forecast all of today's shows. Oh, it wasn't off by that much, but it was off by about 10,000 a show on each show last time, which was kind of crazy. But it was still pretty close. It was just going by past numbers. It was still pretty close. I was kind of impressed actually. Carly, why don't a UFO land in the White House? Well, I know of 3 that parked their ass right over the White House and sat there. Even F-16s flew up to them. And the first time, I think it was actually Corsair 2s that flew them up.
1952 was the first incident. And it was actually 13 or 15, I believe.
Yeah, so it was 50 years to the date when they did it again, and then they did it again just recently.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you want. I mean, they're just parking there looking at the White House like, hey, can you see us? Why don't you look out the window, dumbass? We're right here. La, 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 la.
Well, that also happened again in 53. It was 1952, around June, I think. 12 to 15 objects flew right over right over the Washington Monument, the White House, the Congress building, everything, which spread across downtown D.C. And then it exactly happened again 1 year later in 1953. And both incidents were recorded and reported on by the Washington Post.
Yeah. Well, they're not the only one. Oh man, come on! They have buzzed the mountain several times that I know of. They buzzed several nuclear bases. Actually, some of the nuclear bases they buzzed don't exist anymore.
They took control of and turned off several nuclear bases.
You're talking about Cheyenne Mountain. They've been seen over Cheyenne Mountain more than once. And remember, while we're on this, we might as well touch on some of these bases. So we got Cheyenne Mountain, right? And then, of course, we got Area 51 and Area 52, 3, and 4. We got a few other places. We got Hangar 18. We got some other stuff scattered around. We've got Los Alamos. There's a few other things besides that. Now, they swear, and then, of course, there's Dulce and things like that. So they swear all these bases are connected. Now, I have seen some things on the ground that are pretty big and pretty long. Whether they connect bases 2,000 and 3,000 miles apart, I couldn't tell you.
Actually,
But
there are.
area places, they probably do. The problem with long distance in our country is separating and moving, and one side's falling off into the ocean, and the other side's splitting in half.
Yep.
They're saying that the country's going to right down the Mississippi River. It's just going to split in half. Look, I don't.
But it also could go another way and just split off from California. We lose half of California.
Oh, California's going no matter what. It's definitely falling off.
It's on an active fault zone. So is all of the western states.
Yeah, well, the Mississippi River's on one that no one ever hears about. And I didn't even know you could get an earthquake in Louisiana.
The Appalachian Mountains are on.
Yeah. The friend of mine goes, we can have earthquakes. This is a long time ago. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, look it up. And sure enough, we can have earthquakes. Let me tell you what, people, if New Orleans ever have an earthquake, it's just going to slosh right off the map. It's just a big, sloppy, muddy mess sitting on top of some limestone. It's just going to go whoosh. 4 or 5, it's going to swap out into the Gulf. There ain't going to be nothing left.
New York City ever got a real earthquake? Oh, my God. They crumble like crumble.
We've had earthquakes here.
The Betty Crocker
like the last 10 years in a row, there's been several.
Okay, Janine, it's not the Betty Crocker case. I don't know where you got that name from. I can't, for a reason, it just went out of my head because you said that. That case was in New York City. That's the U.S. ambassador to the UN saw this, along with 2 Secret Service guys saw this. There was other witnesses, but these are the 3 primary witnesses. One of them went absolutely batshit within just a few years after seeing it. So they're out there doing whatever they're doing. They're standing outside the car, the 3 of them. The ambassador looks up, and there's a woman above him, kind of just legs and arms hanging over in her dress, being brought to a UFO by a blue beam of light. This is a United States ambassador. Just by saying this out loud, this is going to cost him his job, probably get him locked up in a loony bin. But yet he came out about it, and the Secret Service backed him up, and then a few other people came up after that and also backed him up. But what bothers me about this is this UFO was pretty high up from what they were saying. New York's got 8 million people in it. Where were the rest of you morons? Asleep?
No, in the city, nobody looks up, because if you do, somebody hits you on the head. It's the old lore. Don't look up in New York City.
Somebody looks up.
The only ones looking up are the tourists, and they usually get hit in the head with a piano or a safe or somebody jumping off a building, anything, A brick.
Well, I did a successful experiment one time in downtown New York, and I don't remember the name of the library, but it's the same library they used for the filming exteriors of the library in Ghostbusters, with the 2 lions on the front. So I was there from college to do some research in their library, and then there a couple of hours I'm getting dizzy and confused. So I went outside to smoke, because they won't let you smoke in the public library for obviously good reasons. So I'm out there on the corner, and I'm like, I just start to look up, and I swear to God, within minutes, a New Yorker came and followed my eyes, and he looked up, and no one says a word the whole time, and I'm out there 7, 8, 9 minutes tops. Within minutes, there's a dozen people around me looking up at the same building I'm looking at, and I decided it's time to go back to finish my research. So I kind of duck out of the crowd, and I throw my cigarette, and I go back up. And just before I go to the doors, I look back over, and those same dozen people are still there.
A lot of people don't know that.
They do look up, but not until they're prompted to or primed to, and they're looking for obviously a jumper, I think. But why would you stay there that long? And no one said a word to anyone.
A lot of people don't know that there's a city under the city. So a lot of it, they built the New York City you see now on top of what the New York City used to be. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, and there's catacombs. There's all kinds of things down there. I mean, there's a lot, a lot.
White alligators.
Everything, anything and anything. Yeah, people bring them back from Florida as babies, and they flush them down the toilet. Yep. My friend's dad saw one. He runs a backhoe, and they were doing the sewer, pulling it apart. And big white alligator came out after them. Not after them, but he came out. They had unlimited food, right? All the rats down there and whatever. My God, alligator would be pretty happy.
Oh, imagine.
Oh, yeah, they have no problems living and stuff like that. That's easy pickings for them.
It's probably white because it hadn't been out in the sun or whatever.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the sun.
Yeah.
It cracks me up. I was watching this guy. He said, He's out there messing with the alligator feeding. I said, dude, I said, you're going to get bit. He's like, no. He said, I can outrun that alligator. I said, you can run 25 miles an hour? He's like, really? I said, yeah, they can run 25 miles. I said, no faster in the water, dude. I said, I wouldn't be screwing with him. I said, that big fat alligator can run 25 miles an hour. I don't know how long he can do it for, but he can do it. But I think if I was you, I would.
Yeah, but they can't run in. They can't run in like zigzags, right? If you run in a zigzag, you can outrun them.
You can try, but he's running so fast he can probably just run you over.
Man, they're big
They're very quick. Yeah, most lizards are quick.
They're fast, man. They come like they outrun a person. Yeah.
It's
Well, it's on four legs, I would imagine, but I can't imagine 25
You use a
miles.
tail too, man.
So Carolyn's asking about the. So we were talking about different cities like Angkor Wat and all of them had UFO sightings, but you're talking about a mystical city in Antarctica. No one's been able to prove that it exists.
Which city?
She's just talking about a city in Antarctica. She's just saying it's a city. She's probably talking about the one Admiral Bird's talking
So she needs to tune into my show.
Yeah, there are
Saturday
research
night.
centers in
She needs to tune into my show. She needs to tune into my show Saturday night because I'm talking about the master Bird, Bird's son, who discovered. He was the one who discovered the diaries. You know, and the diaries are very detailed on the master who's lives down in the earth. What the inside of the earth is versus the outside of the earth, like all this cool stuff, man. So I'll be talking about that Saturday night after the chat. Boom, boom. So she can tune in, man. I got a lot of cool information.
Cool.
Yeah.
That stuff's always fun to talk about. No, Carolyn, as far as I know, no one's ever proved that it
I wouldn't believe it if it wasn't for freaking Admiral Bird. This guy's got the Navy Cross, the CMH. Like you'd be shocked. Like he has.
I know. It's one of the reasons you have to pay attention.
I mean, he was the real deal. That's why they chose him to do this. It was right after World War II, 1946.
He's one of the architects for the Indiana Jones character.
Yep, that's the dude. I mean, like he was amazing. He was an amazing person. I've been reading about it. His history this last week and just really getting into it, you know, and then really like talk about a credible person, and then going back to DC right after he talked to the master and tell them what DC told them to tell them. Interesting stuff.
You got to wonder why no one ever went over there and just nuked it.
South Pole.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody was there, I mean, I'm not talking about us because it's not something we would do, but
I think they can see us coming. They can see anybody coming. That it would be over before it began. We're like the ants. We're like the ants to these others, you know. Because
don't let me forget on Friday night, 12 countries. It's a ban, travel ban affecting 12 countries. Yeah, don't go to England, he said.
Why?
Oh, we got to talk about this on Friday too. I didn't mean to cut you off, Mike, but we got to talk about this on Friday too. Karine Jean-Pierre is no longer a Democrat. She quit the party.
What?
Yes, and she is now an independent. And
because the Republicans won't have her.
Basically gave them the big fat birdie finger.
She sat there and lied for him for all those years. So whatever, man. She's just as guilty as the rest.
Well, that's one of the reasons that they saying she left is because of all that, because she was forced to lie. No one's ever forced to lie, people.
Yeah.
Unless somebody's got a gun to your head. No one's ever forced to lie. What is Jeffrey Pritchett writing me to? Jeffrey's a freaking alien, man.
What? Jeffrey's in the room? Hey, Jeff.
No, he's not in the room. I just seen something come up in my email.
Oh, yeah. He sent me an email, too. I saw that.
Yes, Carly Jeffrey Pritchett is host of the Church of Maybush. I heard Jay was taking over for him there because he was fired or some shit.
No, he wasn't fired.
No, I'm just kidding, Jeff. In case you listen,
it's his show to begin with. How could I fire him?
I didn't say you fired him, my friend.
Oh,
I said the boss fired him. No, Carly, I'm picking on Jeff. He's probably not listening, but I was picking on him. Who's the boss? Michelle DeRoche is the boss. Yes.
Yeah. So you have any complaints? That's the one to write to.
Man, I can't pull this up, and I guess I'm gonna have to share it on my Facebook. So, I'm out at Writers of the Future, like I am usually in April. So I'm in China. I'm in the Chinese news now. I don't know what the hell it says. It probably says crazy man invading China. Huh? I'll
I
have to.
posted from John came in. I haven't opened it yet.
Well, I'm going to post. Oh, did it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to send 5 others, but they were all admin, so I said screw it. But no, Emily sent me a picture of myself on the Chinese media.
Oh
It's not.
wow.
It's a picture of me taken at the event, but it's for Chinese media. I have to send it to one of my friends so I know what the hell it says. They probably say, "Crazy man, you watch out for this guy. You no, you crazy, you crazy." But we're on Chinese TV anyway, so yeah. I don't know how they watch us over there, Kimberly. I don't even want to try. I know we have 12 servers in China. That's all I can tell you. And
That's
China
quite a
pays
few.
for them. They do them like in provinces. We got one in Hong Kong. I think actually there's 2 in Hong Kong. I think there's 2 in Beijing. There's one in Wuhan, which the thing about Wuhan was interesting because we were getting pictures. I still have them, but we were getting pictures from Wuhan nobody else ever saw unless you were watching this network, including things like body bags kicking as people were carrying them onto the incinerators. Yeah, it was crazy stuff.
Blair.
Yeah. Well, I guess, I'll dig them out. They're on the master computer, so yes.
That's badass. I want to get that
Maybe this Friday we'll talk about it a little bit. So what do you mean? Why haven't the aliens disclosed yourself? Okay, so let's look at this from a different point of view.
Ready.
Okay, so the aliens have disclosed themselves to everyone who needs to know.
Yep.
So Jane and Joe over there, swinging on their little branch, they don't need to know.
Yep. And
Y'all
those
are-
few
y'all
who
are
are looking
cannon
to catch
fodder.
pictures, that's about it.
Y'all are cannon fodder, and y'all probably even going to get that. Yeah, the only time they ever get anybody that sees anything is when they're getting on or off a ship. So
What do you think the global guesstimate for you, Joe, is the number? The number of people who've seen a UFO. What do you think globally? Population.
well, because I only think you can see a UFO if you're an abductee, and then abductees make about 1.5 billion people. So, and I would imagine that's probably the same number. There's a lot of things that correlate with that number. Alfred Weber, of all
So
people,
you think 1/6 of the population are able
no.
to see
So
UFOs?
this is how when you listen
Small
to
amount.
abduction researchers describe this is how they describe it. They never use the number I just used. This is what they say: 10 to 15% of the world populations are alien abduction. Well, 10% of 8 billion is 800 million.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when you add in the other, that's another 4. So it's
Another half.
actually 1.2 billion is what it is. So 1.2 billion. And it's funny about that because that's 15, comes out almost to 15%. That's the same population as Rh negative blood, which is 15%. It's also coincidentally with the 12.5 thousand and the 2,000 we live in now. It's also 50,000 years in the feet back as well.
And it's 1/6. It's 1/6 of the population. 1/6.
So
That's a lot.
yeah. Well, the rest of you 7 billion people are cannon fodder. Yeah, they're gonna drop bombs on y'all's heads. Yep.
Or viruses.
It melts you into little squishy, gushy stuff. But you're still alive. You still can see, but you're just a little squishy, gush like some green slime or something, climbing around on the planet. Yeah. I have no idea.
All right, in the house.
If you're talking about the Holocaust dreams, that's a whole different thing. But if that's true, then yeah, it's going to be 1/6 of the population is going to survive, and the rest of y'all who have already been taken off world, which I imagine is freaking billions by now, are going to die. What do you mean? Why don't I care? Because I figure it like this: I'll either already be dead, or I'll be one of the one that goes. So either way, from the rest of y'all.
50-50. No, it's actually not. It's not 50-50. We just determined that it's 1/6, 15% chance.
Yeah. So contactees will tell you this. There's 1/3 of all contactees have the Holocaust dream, and they talk about this intensely. They talk about finding cities where it's AI technology. Well, guess what? We now have AI technology. These things, they greet you at the door with your last purchase and say, "Hello, Jay. How you doing? Oh, what are you looking for today? Let me help you find it." A little character pops up and can move around with you in the store. All of this stuff. They talk about all of this. They talk about different styles of cars. What's interesting about this is when they walk into Houston, the street lights are working, the factories are kind of sort of working. Yeah. Everything seems to be working. There's no fires. There's no destruction of cities. There's no dead people laying around. There's nothing. but everything's still functional. But then you get to, they say, you get to the end of the cities and you start running into big military units, digging these big things and burying people. Even these kind of half alive things they see that somehow mutated into something else. It's like 1% of whatever happens. So they talk about these things. And they talk about their job is to get there and to protect other contactees and to find them, to help them to get to where they're going, whatever ship they're going to, and don't get hurt by what's going on. Because apparently somewhere along the line, the government realized that the contactees were immune to this and started taking them to, I guess, to try to get a vaccine or something along those lines. It's very interesting stuff. But when you have 1/3 of these people talking about it, they're all telling you the same thing from different points of different cities, but it's still the same thing. Yeah. One lady describes being in Virginia. What's funny about it is, I've always asked this, I always put this in their heads, and hopefully somebody will do it one day. I keep saying, get a newspaper, but then I got to thinking about this. Where they're talking is far enough in the future, there probably isn't any newspapers. You know, I said, well, look at I said, next time, look at your clock on your phone. Look at your date on your phone. If you don't have one of those, I said, there's got to be some way you're doing communications. Look and see what the date is. I'm just trying to get a general idea because the contactee group describes it when we hit a certain peak, which sounds like about 10 billion, but we don't know that for sure. And we're not that far off from that, 15, 20 years.
By the end of the decade.
But I don't feel that's what it is. I think it's farther ahead. I don't think but it's not our psychic abilities, because when they transfer you into a new body, it pretty much gives you all those abilities. It's just your mental side needs to be able to handle it and deal with and cope with it. And I think that's really what they're actually pushing towards right now, is pushing people to be able to cope with these abilities. Well, Jackie, you know how to do it. So if you have telekinesis, Jackie, and you get mad at your husband, kill him because you got mad, what are you going to do? You're going to prison for sure. Oh, you know what, Jay? Maybe you can with those abilities, but as far I'm thinking that's a long further in the future. But allegedly, I think you'll learn how to kill him.
At least twice in the Bible. Well, once was in the Bible, the other one's in the apocryphal text, but still, he raised Jesus from the dead.
But Jackie, I wouldn't count on being able to bring him back.
Yeah.
So you know. And it's not even that. What happens if you get home and you just get mad at everybody you talked to that day and all of them just drop dead? Or get some kind of weird ailment or disease or something. So, you know, telekinesis is something we're not even ready for to be a telepath yet. Can you imagine if everybody was in each other's head? Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. There'd be wars everywhere.
And frankly, I don't want to know what's in Michael's head, man. I mean, do you want to know what's in Michael's head? I definitely don't want to know what's in Michael's head. Oh my God!
Be afraid, man.
I'm saying, man, I don't want to know, man.
He's free to share what's in his head anyway, so you don't have to worry what's in his head. He'll share it with you right away.
Oh my God! But Carol, how many people do you think on planet Earth? There's 8,200,000,000 of us right now. How many do you think are ready to share? And remember, not everybody is on the same level on this planet. I'm not so much talking about your mental abilities. I'm talking about where you are in your evolutionary part of this planet. So if you're living so there's 2 tribes in South America that don't share our common DNA. They don't exactly know where they came from. And one of the tribes has a different skull than we do. So they're really confused by this altogether. Yeah. So they're kind of like, oh, well, where could be an offshoot of a different species. Since they were isolated out there, could have been alien. Who knows for sure? So the aliens seem to, at least on a few times, come in and interject in societies. You know, just kind of give them a kick in the ass. Especially the Mayans, they seem to really have given them a kick in the ass. But they warned the Mayans about the Spanish, and the Mayans still fell to the Spanish.
Yep.
From disease.
But in the beginning, that's not what did them in.
Fight in your house, man. But the Mayans, what the hell were they? Killing 30,000 people a month, basically, and sacrifices and doing all this shit. You know, whatever, man.
Man, like they were crazy. I mean, yeah. I mean, they had model airplanes. They had things that looked like airplanes. They had things that could fly.
Yeah.
It's just they were way forward advanced.
Same for the Egyptians, but the Egyptians were different about it, and so same for India. I don't know, interesting stories. I mean, from
yeah, and
all.
they're all diverging cultures that share some stuff and not share. The Mayans were a little bit more bloody. I mean, the Egyptians were pretty bloody too, but I don't think that anybody is quite as bloody as the Mayans.
I mean, the
Yeah,
Mayans. I mean, they're cutting people's hearts out of living bodies, like in front of throngs of people. That's kind of whacked.
They said about 30,000 a month. About that, that's a lot of people, man.
Yeah, but only when they were at war. When they weren't at war, they didn't do it.
Yeah, it was usually their enemies, but I mean, still, they'd have to go through a lot of people.
No. This was their own people, and then about 30,000 a month. They constantly do these sacrifices, for their beliefs. Crazy, man. But
it's nuts.
It's humans, right? A very, very primitive human.
No, they weren't primitive at all. That's the problem.
Some of them had elongated skulls, so where they?
Where do you think they got the idea from to do sacrifices?
That's somebody else do it.
Well, no, you see, the sacrifice thing is misread, and they didn't do them all the time. They had certain times because they weren't even allowed in certain temples at certain times of the year. So it's what Jay and I were talking about before. So it's not just one city. When you look at a Maya thing, it's like when you look at the old cities, not all of them are cities. Some of them are recreational areas.
Yeah.
So the two temples where they did most of the sacrifice were not cities. That's what they were there for. They were there for that stupid game they used to play, and when they would conquer enemies, or anytime they would have I forgot what they called it, but they'd have to do a blood thing to cleanse it. But most of their people live way, way, way far away from there. Anybody coming to watch it had to trek a long ways just to get there. So you're not going to drag your own people that far across. Plus, by nature, they were what? What were they?
Tribal.
They grew stuff.
Yeah,
they weren't even considered a warring race. They were considered farmers.
Yeah, agrarian.
I mean, yeah, they're the ones who had them growing on the side of the mountains and stuff. They just had times when they were bloody, nasty, disgusting.
This is the deal. During the pre-Columbian era, human sacrifice in Maya culture was the ritual offering of nourishment to the gods and goddesses. Blood was viewed as a source of nourishment for the Mayan deities, and the sacrifice of living creatures was a powerful.
I wonder how them steps. I wonder how deep that blood, because we know we're not human blood, but I wonder how deep that blood penetrated them rocks.
But check this out.
A lot of blood on them things, man. I mean, that's a lot.
As for their enemies, generally only high status prisoners of war were sacrificed, and lower status were used for labor.
Yeah, they did use a lot of them for labor, but they also used a lot of them for that freaking game, and the loser always got executed. What's sad about it? Even if
the way the game worked was when they conquered another tribe, they would lop off the tribal leader's head and prepare it in a certain way, and then it became the ball, and it was like soccer, basketball. You had to kick it up in the air through this hoop up on the middle of the ring, and once it went through there, you scored points. They were
sick fucks. Oh, excuse my language.
Game, yeah.
They were, but they were, and that's what's so funny about them. They were savage, but yet they were
civilized.
Yeah, it's
crazy. But no, man. So sacrifice by decapitation is depicted on classic period Mayan art. Sometimes it took place after the victim was tortured, being viciously beaten, scalped, burnt, and disemboweled.
Yeah.
Sacrifice of decapitation depicted. I don't know, they had all kinds of artwork they got.
Yeah, because they were talking about the ones that got their hearts removed were conditioned and special. What the hell, people?
Yeah, here it is: heart removal, heart extractions, and sacrifice have been viewed as a supreme religious expression among the ancient Maya. The removal of the still beating heart, or sometimes self-immolation, was considered a great offering and a meal for the gods.
It
began with a dispersal of blood extract from mouth, nose, ears, fingers, penis.
I never did last one, Michael. Damn it!
Typically, with a sharp tool made from an animal bone, such as
they show them on some of them. They show this thing, this priest has in his hand that like cups right here. It comes down. It's got this weird blade, and it just kind of like digs in. I guess they use it for like vivisections and stuff. Guys and girls, if you don't know what a vivisection is, that's when they cut you open and take one little piece out at a time.
While you're still
And-
alive.
yeah, while you're still alive until you die. And they're pretty good at keeping people alive, just even drugs
you
and
die.
alcohol stuff, yeah, until you die. But we got to go. It's 8 o'clock, and we know Michelle's coming up in just a few minutes. And what's that, Johnny? Johnny Red.
That's a bit of leading for a show, man. We're talking about.
Are you talking about like Johnny Red, the alcohol? Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about? No. So tonight on the Outer Realm, stories and accounts of UFOs over the Arctic with Preston Dennett. It's a good UFO tonight. Go check it out with them. And no, we're getting ready to leave. Friday night, I can already tell you Friday night is Friday night. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Trump's got some stuff against him, got some stuff for him.
Exclusive footage of Putin's nuclear bombers.
Oh yeah, yes, getting their asses
blown to bits.
Some other footage of some other things, some other fighters getting tore up. And then we're going to talk about what's the Ukraine's chances of actually winning this war, or at least coming out even. We're going to talk about a little bit what our president.
I think it's what you said. I think Putin's going to lose his mind and nuke them, man. I think that all these attacks right now, like they blew up that bridge with Crimea. They blew up the nuclear bombers. I mean, they're off the hook. I think he's going to go nuts. I think it's just what you said.
Sooner or later, sooner or later they're going to hit the Kremlin. He's going to be in the Kremlin. And he's going to lose it. He's going to lose it. But no, guys and girls, we're going to talk about that Friday night, 9 o'clock. Come check us out. We'll be getting into it. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. We got to talk about our cute little Gene leaving the party, and some of the other stuff about the Democrats, some of the stuff about the Republicans, who's going to be independents. There's just a lot to talk about, none of which can be talked about on this show. So be sure to come check us out Friday night. We'll have a big group. We'll have some crazy Canadians with us, so they can talk about becoming a communist country.
Oh yeah.
If you're Canadian, if you're a Canadian, if you're a Canadian, if you live up there, and you're feeling this pressure from this communist guy up there, what's his name? Idiot head. No, wait, what's his real name? Oh, now I forgot his name. But anyway, your new prime minister, the moron. If you're feeling the communism, come check us out on Friday night. We'll give you a place to vent. And we're on American service. So if you're with us, you're on American service. Ain't much they can do. On that note, I want to tell everyone good night and thank you for tuning in to UFO Undercover with Jay, Mike, and Joe. Come see us on Friday night. And until then, have some fun. Enjoy your life.
See the cactus, man?
Yeah.